week 2 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few wide receivers I looked at off the wire this week. The first guy, Puka Nacua of the Los Angeles Rams, so the rookie wide receiver, impressive in his debut. 10 catches, 119 receiving yards on 15 targets. That's a monster ball game. That's a monster target share. And they're looking for receivers, obviously, over there in Los Angeles with Cooper Kupp out and Von Jefferson be pretty much not doing much in his career with this Ram team. So Nacua and Otwell definitely were guys that stuck out in this ball game. And they got a matchup where they're going to be throwing a lot once again, I believe. Is this Los Angeles Ram team. Week 2 versus San Francisco 49ers, who defense obviously went in to Pittsburgh and dominated. So right now, Nacua available in tons of leagues at 96%. We saw him go out there. We saw him make some big plays for this Ram team. And he reminds me of a nice possession receiver that could work the middle of the field, make some plays, yards after catch as well. And him and Stafford had a good rapport. He's not just going to go out there and target a guy 15 times if he didn't believe in him. And obviously, he kept getting open in that ball game as well. So he's definitely one of the big pickups this week off the wire. The next wide receiver is Jacoby Myers of the Las Vegas Raiders. So Myers, an underrated signing in the offseason for this Raider team. And I know he took a monster hit in this ball game and left it with a concussion possibly. Here's Jacoby Myers with 9 catches, 81 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So right here, Myers and Garoppolo have a good rapport. Obviously, they're both former New England Patriots and used to running the system. And the scout team as well, I believe both these guys ran over there. So right now, Myers, if he's healthy, I know it's a tough matchup week 2 with the Buffalo Bills, but him and Garoppolo got a good rapport like I mentioned. He's getting a lot of one-on-one coverage. Devontae Adams over there on the other side at the receiving position. And he's a receiver. We saw it in New England. He went out there last season and made plays and got a good contract as well because what he could do. So right now, hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully he could bounce back here is Jacoby Myers. But right now, while he's available in 50% of fantasy leagues, he's definitely a receiver. I got to mention this week, the next receiver is Kendrick Bourne of the New England Patriots. So Bourne, we know he's had a good rapport over the last few seasons with Mac Jones. And right now with Devontae Parker out, he stepped up in this ball game and had a good one. 6 catches, 64 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns on 11 targets. So right now the Patriots in week 2, they got a matchup versus the Dolphins where, you know, they're going to have to put up points on the board if they want to compete with them. And that's what happened in week 1 with Philly. They were down 16-0 early in that ball game, and they bounced back and made it a close one. But Kendrick Bourne, we know he's a speedy wide receiver. We know he works the middle of the field pretty well. And like I said, him and Mac Jones were on the same page in that ball game in week 1. So right now, while he's available pretty much virtually everywhere in 99% of fantasy leagues, he's definitely a wide receiver to keep an eye on, maybe in deeper leagues more than your basic 10-12 shallow leagues. But like I said, coming off a good performance and fighting pay dirt twice is definitely a player you want to keep an eye on this week. The next wide receiver, Shaheed of the New Orleans Saints. So he was a preseason hype guy with Shaheed, but right now he's available in tons of fantasy leagues at 84%. And he had a nice week 1 with Derek Carr and this New Orleans Saints team. 5 catches, 89 yards, a touchdown, 11 rush yards, and a fumble loss on 6 targets. A week 2, a good matchup at the Carolina Panthers. Right now, we know Derek Carr, he likes to spread out defenses. We know he likes to work guys out of the slot, and that's what Shaheed was doing in this week 1 ball game. And now with a good matchup on Monday Night Football, the first of the 2 games of the doubleheader here. Shaheed, he could go out there and make plays. Him and Carr looked like they had good chemistry here in week 1. And when you got a receiver like Chris Olave and even Michael Thomas to an extent, he's going to be getting good looks at Shaheed with one-on-one coverage in the slot. It's a problem for some of these corners. So he's definitely a receiver to go out there and get this week. The next receiver is another Los Angeles Ram, Tutu Atwell. So Atwell, he got a lot of looks in this ball game as well. And we know he's a speedy wide receiver where he could get behind the defense at 5'9", 165. So a great week 1 ball game for Atwell. 6 catches, 119 yards on 8 targets. And this Ram team, I know they didn't have a lot of wide receivers on paper, it looked like, but they went on the field versus Seattle, and Atwell and Nacua went over 100 yards in that ball game. We're both combining for 22 targets, so Stafford's going to have to throw to someone. We saw who he was throwing to here in week 1. And Atwell available right now in tons of fantasy leagues as well in 99%. So right now, you can find some guys on the wire here in week 1. I know they're available in tons of leagues. I'm not saying drop some of your guys who didn't do much in week 1, but definitely guys to keep an eye on if their performances like this, especially over 100 yards in a ball game. And the final wide receiver I looked at on the wire this week's Romeo Doubs of the Green Bay Packers. So Christian Watson, he was out here in week 1. We know Doubs, he had a decent year on and off last season with Aaron Rodgers, a quarterback, but him and Jordan Love in the red zone, they had the connection going. 4 catches, 26 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And I don't know if Christian Watson's going to come back in week 2. And it's a good matchup, no doubt about it, the Atlanta Falcons. But right now, Doubs available in 70% of fantasy leagues. Him and Love have a lot of chemistry from last season as well, with the scout team running early in the season together. So right now, even if Watson comes back, it could open up things a little bit more here for Doubs. And Jordan Love, he looks like a polished vet out there. I know it's one game, but him sitting on the bench multiple seasons watching Aaron Rodgers, you would think he learned some things from him and knows how to get the ball to his receivers and make plays. So right now, Doubs out there in 70% of fantasy leagues. And when a guy could score 2 touchdowns in a ball game, he's definitely going to get attention as well on the waiver wire. So that's a few wide receivers I look to add on the wire here for week 2 of the fantasy football season.